there.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Well, we'll give it a try.
Yeah.
All right. This will be a first for... It's pretty cool. All right, do you want to go with the video? Well, I guess we can't do the video opening then. We'll just start from fresh.
Yeah, well, you can just, we can do it the same way, and then we'll just play the music instead of the whole video opening and go,
Okay.
I think I've got a shorter theme. I don't know which one is the shorter one. Yeah, I'll play the shorter one.
Okay. It's probably better anyway, a little shorter.
Yeah. All right, whenever you're ready.
All right. It's the return of Captain America. A fan falls from the top deck at Atlanta, and Kurt Schilling suspended from ESPN. All this and more on this week of MLB This Week. And hello, everyone. Welcome to the MLB This Week podcast, your weekly show talking baseball all around America and all around the world. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
And hello, Gary Mack. We had a little snafu with our Google Hangout, so we're taking the alternative tonight, going over to Skype for this show.
And it always seems to be something, Rich.
Yes, it does. And we're very adaptable, though. That's the good thing about this show. We can, in a moment's notice, switch.
Yeah, that's what's good about it. And good to be back again, Rich, with you.
Yes, and it's been a full week of baseball stories. We got a few of the hand-picked ones we've selected for this show. We're the independent podcast, not sponsored by Major League Baseball or any other baseball team. So I'd like to invite you to skip on over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. You can also listen to us on Stitcher Radio. MLBThisWeek.com is our main website. Check us out on YouTube and Google+. So we appreciate you hanging in there. And Gary, last week we had one of our record most listenings of any show.
Yeah, that was great. So thank you all for listening in. I hope you all enjoyed it. And I hope you'll come back and listen again because it's always as good as that.
That's for sure. And it's getting close to playoff time here, the holiday coming up with Labor Day next week. I think we'll be taking the week off for Labor Day, are we not, Gary?
I guess we can.
And we'll be loading up a double show for you the following week. We'll have a whole lot of talk baseball. But, Gary, you have the top story of the night here. Captain America returns to the field.
Well, yes, Rich. A couple of years ago, David Wright had a big World Baseball Classic and got the nickname Captain America. And, of course, he's the Mets captain. And last Sunday night when the Mets piled out of their team bus late on Sunday and rode an elevator up to the lobby of their hotel in Philadelphia, they had flown in from Colorado, and when the elevator door opened, there was a David Wright grinning in full uniform with a tray of cookies he purchased from a nearby bakery. With that, the barrier that had separated the Mets from their captain since April came tumbling to the ground. The Mets laughed, snapped photos, ate cookies together, and by the time they all arrived at the ballpark on Monday, for Wright's first big league game in over 4 months, it seemed like just another game. And, until that time, he's been out with an injury. It was originally a hamstring. They found out he had a disease called spinal stenosis, which is a narrowing of the blood vessels, or I'm not getting that right, I don't think, but it's a back problem. It's not going to go away. But with exercise and rest and medicine and stuff, he should be able to play, and he's been playing since Monday. He's had a couple of off days, and but it was his remarkable return, the first at bat against your Philadelphia Phillies, Rich. He hit a home run into the second deck and really got the Mets going and led them on their sweep of the Phillies. Sorry to bring that up, Rich. But so the captain has returned to the Mets and to baseball in general, and it's really it's been a long absence, 4 months, and it's really good to have him back. He was the face of the MLB last year, and so good to see him back in uniform and actually playing quite well.
Yeah, very good to see him back as well, even though, as you said, yeah, he did some damage with the Phillies, against the Phillies, actually. But it was nice to see him back, and what a way to come back to the field with a long home run like he hit there. And that turned into quite a game, the most home runs hit ever in a major league game between the Phillies and the Mets. I think it was, 11 home runs, Gary?
Yeah, something like that. It was unbelievable. It was like watching home run derby. Very entertaining, especially because we won. Maybe not so entertaining for Philly fans, but lots of stuff went on in that series. And as I said, lots of hits, lots of home runs. As you said, a record tied. And we had everything from a bench clearing brawl almost with over a quick pitch and Larry Boa losing his head and getting thrown out of a game. And it was really kind of an entertaining series. And of course, your Phillies come into Citi Field this week for 3, and hopefully that's just as entertaining with the same results.
Well, we'll have to see. Of course, that was a long 4-game series for the Phillies, but yeah, it was good to see the captain back. And as you said, the spinal stenosis does not sound very good, but he's been out quite a bit over the course of his career, has he not, Gary?
It's really been the last few years, the last 4 or 5 years, where he's had some problems. He was pretty durable up till then. But he is 32 now, so the injuries are going to creep. And this is going to be the sort of thing that's going to take some they're going to have to watch it because it's going to be day by day almost whether he can play. They have to see how he feels when he gets to the ballpark. And even on off days, he's got to go through a routine to keep it strong and but I have to say that there was some concern on some of the things that he did do, and whether he could do. And the first game he didn't look so good defensively. He had a couple of errors, but that was a lot of that was timing. That was rust from not being out there, and he seemed to have gotten over that now. He's made some good plays. And the other day it was running, and he scored from first base, slid into home, and I can tell you that there was some breath holding in the Mets dugout. But he seemed to come out of that just fine. So we're hoping that if he can play 5 out of 7 days, 4 out of 7 days, they're in a position now where they have decent backup with Juan Uribe, and they can go with him at third when Wright can't play, and they really it really gives them a lot of flexibility. And so far the reports have all been good. He has felt fine even on the off days, but I think he's reached a point too where he understands he can't play every game and every inning now with this. So who knows? It might help prolong his career now because he knows he's attuned to what he has to do, and he'll be willing to sit down and take these periods of rest. So
very good. So glad to hear that the captain is back and back up and at him. And of course the Mets in first place in the NL East, 72-58 with the win today over the Boston Red Sox, 8-2 in their last 10. Skipping across to the Central, it's the St. Louis Cardinals, 84-46. Already 84 wins for the Cards. Who's going to stop them?
Hopefully the Mets will, but that would be probably in if everything holds true now, it would be in the NLCS. It looks like the Cardinals will probably get the Pittsburgh and the Cubs, the wild card winners, with that gaudy record of theirs. But they've had gaudy records in the past, and just because you get a lot of wins in the regular season doesn't mean that you are going to win in the postseason, and sometimes it works against you, and we'll see about that. I hope they win 3 games this week because they're playing the Washington Nationals, so I hope that the Cardinals bring their A game to that and take care of the Nationals. And no offense, Rich, but if we can take care of the Phillies, we can build a bigger lead. So we'll see how that goes, but. Yeah, St. Louis, it's pretty gaudy, though, isn't it? 84-46, they're really up there.
Yes, they are. They're building something great out there in the Central Division. Of course, hopping over to the West Coast, it's the Dodgers, 72-56, almost the same record as the Mets there. They've got a nice 4-game lead over the San Francisco Giants.
Yeah, they certainly do, and they're really, fighting it out, and it should be an interesting race as we go along.
Yep, and we're going to be talking a lot more about wild card standings coming up in the next couple weeks, I'm sure. But right now it looks like over in the American League, it's the Toronto Blue Jays have unseated the Yankees there. They've gone 8-2 in their last 10, 3-game winning streak, but the big number on the Blue Jays, Gary, I don't know if you've noticed this, they're at plus 193 run differential against teams they've played.
Wow, they're really bashing the ball and really giving it to these other teams. And when they win big.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I got an update in the World Series winning odds, and believe it or not, the Blue Jays were on the top odds getter out in Vegas to win the World Series. So maybe those odds guys know something about the Blue Jays.
I don't know, but we'll have to see. It could be Blue Jays and Mets in the World Series. Wouldn't that be interesting?
Yes, it would. Over in the Central, it's the Kansas City Royals leading the way. They got a huge lead out there over the Twins. 13 games ahead of the Twins out there.
Yeah, they look like the nobody's going to beat them, I don't think, at this point. But the Twins are still in the wild card race, so anything could happen there, Rich.
Yep, and the Tigers, they've sunk down to the bottom. 60-70 record, 20 games back out there in the AL Central. 1-9 in their last 10. I think the Tigers have finally collapsed.
Wow. Yeah. Well, he made some big trades. They got rid of 2 of their star players. They got rid of their general manager and president. So I think it's safe to assume that they're heading to the rebuilding phase.
They threw in the towel.
Yes.
Over in the West, American League West, it's the Astros still leading the way, but with the Texas Rangers sneaking up behind them, 3 games back of the Houston Astros as we're heading into the last month of play in the MLB.
And look at those California Angels. They're at 500, Rich, and the Mariners that a lot of people were picking to go to the playoffs and possibly even win the World Series. They're not even at 500. They're 9 games under 500. So, boy, what a turnaround for those teams. And nobody was picking the Rangers. And look, they're 3 games out of first.
Yeah, and they would have a wild card spot if the season ended today. The Yankees and the Rangers there are first and second for the wild card standings in the American League. And over in the National League, it's the Pirates and the Cubs. So Yeah, it's going to be interesting as the season winds down here. One more month, and some of these teams that have been terrible all year are going to start to play into some of these teams that need wins as we go towards the last month of the season. So close eye will be kept on that, I'm sure. And a little bit of sad news here on our next story, Gary. Last night in Atlanta, at the Atlanta Braves Turner Field, 60-year-old man named Greg Murray of Alpharetta, Georgia, fell from the top deck of the area behind home plate and onto the first-level concourse. Apparently lost his footing. The gentleman was a season ticket holder with the Atlanta Braves, watching baseball. And what a tragedy. It was announced live as it happened. The game did not take a pause, interestingly enough. It came when Mr. Rodriguez was announced from the Yankees as a pinch hitter in the seventh inning. There was so much noise and commotion going on in the stadium. There was very little known about what had happened. The broadcasters did see it on Fox and, of course, on radio. It happened right in front of them. But what a terrible tragedy, Gary, there in Atlanta.
Yeah, and Rich, it's kind of strange. We've been talking about safety with the netting, and we're going to have a little story about that. But this had nothing to do with all of that. And one guy who was seated near him said that when they called A-Rod coming to bat, he got all excited, and his momentum took him over the railing. I don't get how that could possibly happen. I mean, those railings are not high, but I mean, I've jumped up from a seat for foul balls, but never went over, and I don't see how he must have been either so angry that A-Rod was coming up or so happy that A-Rod. I mean, I don't see how his momentum could have taken him that much forward and over the railing. It's a strange thing. I don't know whether we're going to ever find out what exactly happened.
As time has elapsed in this, there's been some, as you said, some eyewitnesses. There was one in today that was reported by ABC News that a fan had heard some commotion going on behind her. So he wasn't apparently in the first row of seating. Somehow, as you said, he was booing A-Rod is what they were saying. And somehow he actually ended up with his momentum carrying him over the railing. But just a terrible time there. Didi Gregorius of the New York Yankees was on second base at the time of the incident, and he actually saw the fan fall. He had just doubled in Brian McCann, but Gregorius said it was difficult to concentrate on anything after seeing the incident, of course, and offered his condolences to the family as well. And
they said that he fell close to the area where players' wives and families sit, and that they escorted the family members to a room near the clubhouse, and many were very upset and crying. And a security guard at the room holding the family members said that the family saw the man try to hang on to a wire that runs from the protective net behind the plate to under the press box, and then he fell the rest of the way to the lower level seats. I don't know. I mean, I still don't understand how his momentum could take him over that. Again, we don't have all the details. We don't know, but I'm just surmising, even if he was in the front row and jumped up, I don't see how your momentum could take you over that quickly.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Interestingly enough, this afternoon I was watching a Phillies game, and they showed like the higher level seating. They weren't discussing what had happened or anything, but they had a camera shot coming off of that highest level that they offer there, and it is very steep. It's amazingly steep, And if you just lose your balance for a minute or two, especially the way people drink at games sometimes, it's not very hard to understand how people are going to have a problem real quick. I'm not quite sure how steep Atlanta's is, but in Philadelphia, it's almost like sitting on the edge of a cliff.
Yeah, it is steep, and Shea Stadium was like that. And I haven't been upstairs in Citi Field, but they always used to have a railing going up the middle of the steps so you could hold on to something. But I could understand falling down the steps more because of the steepness, but there's still that barrier of that railing on those seats. So I don't understand. You know what I'm saying? You can. It is steep, but I can't see how if you jump up and you're in the first or second or third row, how you're going to go. You're going to run into somebody, or a chair. Something's going to break your fall. I would think it would allow you to grab that rail. It's a very strange situation, and maybe we'll get the whole story. Maybe it'll never come out because maybe. Eyewitnesses always see things differently, and it's just a sad situation for baseball. And they don't need it with everything else going on.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, that is the third fan in 8 years to die from falling from a height there in Atlanta. So, terrible situation.
Mm-hmm.
One of those fans actually jumped off of the Atlanta Braves stadium, so that was a suicide, but I believe the other two were accidental. So, tough situation there in Atlanta. But, Gary, you have our next story up here a little bit closer to home here around Philadelphia.
Well, Rich, we're talking about that and fan safety, and at least one major league team plans to extend protective netting for the fans. The big issue this year has been the protective netting and the foul balls. And it's your own Philadelphia Phillies that intend to install such netting at Citizens Bank Park, but are waiting on baseball before proceeding with final plans, according to major league sources. The Phillies want to proceed, but they do not want to do it and then be forced to adjust it if baseball establishes different regulations. And apparently baseball is working diligently on the fan safety issue, but does not expect a resolution before the end of the season. The issue has drawn increased scrutiny due to a series of incidents this season in which fans in the stands have been struck by broken bats and baseballs. They are actively studying it, they say. And one of the holdups, Rich, is that they can't implement a uniform set of rules without first thoroughly examining the laws and codes in the cities and counties where the teams play. And of course, it comes down to money. The people that sit in those kind of seats may not want to look through the netting, so they really have to check that out. In a related story, the woman that got injured in Fenway Park is suing the Red Sox. I don't know if she's got much of a case. They're using a unique thing because of some renovations in the ballpark. They removed part of the screen, and they're going to use that as the way they try to sue the Red Sox, saying they're not covered, but by saying you got to protect yourself. But I don't know. It's a very tough issue, and they have it at the Little League World Series. If you watched any of that, they have all the way around. They have the netting or screening or fence, whatever it is. But I just don't know. I mean, those people are there, of course, to root their kids on, and they do pay money. But, those seats are expensive, and do you really want to have that block? And as we said, I think it was last week, it can be annoying.
Yeah, and it depends, I guess, how high they keep the netting. As you get higher, you protect more rows. So I imagine they would want to protect at least the first 10 to 15 rows in a section, going down at least three-quarters of the way down to first base, I would imagine.
Yeah, well, they're just going to extend what's currently the same height as it is now. Now, my question, of course, is if somebody gets hurt on a second level from a foul ball, are we going to encase the whole stadium in this? I mean, then why don't you just build a plexiglass thing or something, It is a ballpark. You are outdoors, and they do warn you. There are announcements during the game. It's on your tickets. I don't know. I don't want to see anybody get hurt, but I think you have to take this little bit of responsibility. And I just wonder in this world now if people don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. And we're very litigious in this country, and right away we run to a lawyer and want to sue. I don't know. That's another discussion for a whole other show.
Yeah, we could probably have a sports lawyer on and do an hour in an easy stint there on that. But yeah, as you said, it's a matter of balance. As these stadiums are built smaller and smaller, you don't have the big bowl stadiums like you used to have. And there was a reason why players had bigger numbers on their backs years ago, because you couldn't see them if they weren't
It's true.
bigger. So stadiums like Veterans Stadium, a few others around the country that were imploded, and ballparks were shrunk down. Better for fans, better for the action. And this, unfortunately, is just a byproduct of all of that happening.
And Rich, I got to tell you, that is the first time I've heard anybody mention that. And it makes so much sense because you're 100% correct that they have been shrinking these ballparks down to get closer to the action, and this is probably why we're seeing a lot of these incidents now, and the lack of attentiveness and with people on their cell phones and iPads and whatnot. But that's the first time I mentioned that, and it's an excellent point about the shrinking ballparks.
Yep. Well, one person you won't be able to see on ESPN this week is ESPN Baseball tonight. Mr. Kurt Schilling has been a good addition to the ESPN staff. I'm not a huge Kurt Schilling fan, but I do like his commentary on those games. He's been suspended for tonight's broadcast and possibly more over a tweet that he sent out in the last week or so. And it was a controversial tweet. Probably should have had no business talking about this on his Twitter account, but he actually sent out a tweet comparing people of the Muslim faith to Nazi Germany, and it drew swift and near universal backlash against Schilling. So this isn't the first time that Schilling has sent out a strange tweet. In the past, over the last few months, he went after a bully who had been picking on his daughter in college, I believe. He went right to Twitter and voiced his opinion against that. So Schilling is no stranger to controversy when it comes to Twitter. I think he should probably pull his Twitter account, Gary.
Well, Rich, I don't know. I don't know why we can't say anything about the extreme Muslims anymore in this country. And Schilling is allowed a First Amendment right of speech. This had nothing to do with his job. It's kind of sad to see that he has an opinion that's different from other people, and right away he gets pulled from his job. And there's so many other people that go on the air and inflame people such as Al Sharpton and other people of that ilk, and yet they get shows. And he makes one comment on Twitter, and he's off the air. I support his right to say whatever he wants to say. I mean, Hillary Clinton just said that the Republican Party was like the terrorists and the Nazis, and she's allowed to keep running for president. And he says virtually the same thing, but a different about a bunch of extreme terrorists, and he gets suspended from his broadcasting duty. So it's a little bit of a double standard in this country. Of course, ESPN wants to keep everybody PC and everybody happy and hunky-dory, and it's just a shame that this country is going down this PC toilet, and we're so afraid to say anything, watch what we say, and that's why kind of what we do here, we can say whatever the heck we want and get away with it, but you still don't want to say anything too bad. But it's just a shame that Curt Schilling, to me, his First Amendment rights were violated, and if he didn't want to go back to work for ESPN, I'd be suing their butts off for his First Amendment rights being violated. But now there has been it has opened up the door for another analyst, and that's Jessica Mendoza, who became the first woman to break down a baseball game in an ESPN booth, and she's going to sit in this week for Schilling. And of course, that's the way the PCU crowd usually works. They take something that they violate your rights as an American and put in something that everybody says, "Oh, look how wonderful they are." They put women in the booth. So, yeah. But again, that's another show.
And Schilling did have another supporter, believe it or not. Sarah Palin came out of her hiding spot in this past week. Haven't heard too much from her in a while, but went out to condemn ESPN as a journalistic embarrassment and supported Schilling, even though Schilling himself admitted that he probably should not have tweeted that. And I guess it just boils down to good sense, Gary. You're a public figure. You sort of got to watch what you say, and everything shouldn't be put out for the public to digest it and interpret it. So hopefully it'll end good for him.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right in that aspect, but still, sometimes you put out something and thinking that it's only going to be your followers that see it, and perhaps there's somebody following you that doesn't really like you, and they're the ones that release it to the public. And I just think it's a shame that he can't say what he wants, and even though he's a public figure, there is still a sense of privacy that should be allowed, and I'm just going to leave it at that.
Very good. Well, we'll have a Schilling-less broadcast starting up in a few minutes here on Sunday night. Tune in. Who knows? Maybe you'll like the other broadcaster better. But Gary, you have a story on Mr. Dallas Braden.
Well, this would have worked better on a Hangout because I could have showed you the picture. But former pitcher and current ESPN analyst Dallas Braden was at Chase Field on Monday night at the D-backs game to challenge D-backs, the Bobcat, the mascot, in a cannonball contest. But the real highlight of the game came when Braden caught a fly ball while riding an inflatable pink flamingo in the D-backs pool. You don't have that little pool out in the outfield there. So, again, it would have been a lot better with the picture showing of him in this laying in this pink flamingo catching a fly ball. But Nonetheless, some more crazy doings going on at ESPN apparently, and Dallas Braden is quite a colorful character.
Yes, he is. I would have liked to have seen that still on if we had to hang out tonight, but yeah, and Baxter, the Fox or whatever he is there for the D-backs. I've seen him in Philadelphia when they have a birthday party every year for the Fanatic. He shows up, so pretty interesting character there.
Yeah.
Well, announced yesterday, Vin Scully, the prolific Dodger broadcaster, is going to be in for one more year of broadcasting with the Dodgers. It'll be his 67th, and what a career he's had, Gary. Just announced it. He will turn 88 in November, and he seems ageless to everybody that listens to him. But it's going to be a strange occurrence for Dodgers fans. Imagine a 67-year career.
Wow, that's quite a long time. But I think they've kind of weaned the Dodger fans there, or they are weaning him off. He only does essentially home games. He may do some San Diego games, but he's essentially just the home announcer at this time, and they have Charlie Steiner and some other guys that do the games when he's not there. Long career, great career. I'm in a negative mood tonight. I'm not a big Vince Scully fan personally, but you have to take away, people. The great Vince Scully. I don't think he's that fascinating, and I find him quite boring in a way. But that's just me, and I think I'm still allowed. I'm not on ESPN, so I guess I can give my opinion on that. But a great career. I mean, he started in Brooklyn with the Dodgers and moved out to California with them. And actually, I believe he started with the New York Giants and then moved over to Brooklyn and moved out to California with them. Had a long and storied career. Games of the week, national television. He's done it all. I'm sure there's some football bowl games in there because all of these guys have done that at one time or another. And 67 years, and I guess he's kind of guy that doesn't have a lot of hobbies because otherwise he'd probably be retired. But God bless him, 88, and I hope he stays as long as he wishes to stay and can do it and remains in good health.
Yeah, I kind of like his stories. I like he rarely has a second of dead airspace in a broadcast. He's like a machine almost, the way he has a story about every player. It gives you a little background about the player, things that you might not know. But you don't hear a lot of that with the new announcers. It's basically just a color commentary of the game. You don't get to know or feel like you know the players the same as you do with some of these old-time broadcasters.
Well, I have to say, in New York, we do. We get a lot of that. They spend a lot of time with the players, so I guess it's wherever you go, whatever your city is. Look, people love Hawk Harrelson in Chicago, and the rest of the country thinks he's the world's worst announcer. And the New York Yankees, to me, have the worst announcing staff, television and radio, that you can imagine. I mean, radio is the pits. It's just awful. I mean, awful. But I guess the Yankee fans like it because they keep tuning in, and I don't know.
They have the Yankee fandom there. They have no other choice.
I guess so. I guess so. But boy, they are the pits. You want to talk about homers? Wow.
Well, for the occasion here, I have a Vin Scully story for our listeners. Last December, around Christmas time, and this was in the LA Times, by the way, Scully and his wife went shopping at the local Costco in Westlake Village, California. He was going to gather some meats for his wife, walking past, and his wife pointed at some ribs. So Vin grabbed the packaged meat, stuffed it into plastic bags, and piled on top of the overflowing cart, the story says. Eventually, the couple went out, put their groceries in their SUV in the parking lot. Once they had the trunk loaded, Scully climbed into the front seat and glanced down, and he noticed his 1988 World Series ring has disappeared from his finger. So he noticed it right away, and he kept saying, my ring's gone. So he immediately walked back into the store because he knew he had it on when he went into the Costco, and informed the assistant general manager that he had lost his World Series ring. The manager flew into a panic, assured him he'd do everything to help him find the ring, saying that Vin is like family to us. And sure enough, they did locate the ring for him.
All right. I can't picture Vince Scully though in Costco.
Yeah, it doesn't seem right, really. It's you'd think he'd have delivery or something.
Yeah, who's gonna hump all of them bags into the house? Him? I mean, come on.
So Vin is well trained in broadcasting and grocery shopping. Now we all know.
Apparently so.
Well, Gary, I put a call out to our listeners to give us an email, and we've heard from a few, but we would like to hear from more. So if you listen to the show and you like it, send us an email to talk@MLBThisWeek.com and let us know where you listen from. We'd love to put you on the air. I've had on my Phillies show a couple emails last week, one from Belgium, one from Chicago. We get one from California. So would like to hear from our listeners here on MLB This Week. Tell us what you like about the show, will you?
Yeah, and my fans in England, I hope you're checking out this show, as well as the other shows that I do. And you can send us an email, too. We'd like to hear from you. Or a voicemail.
Absolutely. Send it in. You can record it. Send that as well, just like you would a regular email, and we'd love to get it on the show. So thanks for listening to this edition of MLB This Week. Gary, you have anything to take us out of this edition?
I could play a little music if you want, or whatever you like. But suffice to say, we'll see you all again in 2 weeks.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Have a great holiday.